Hey guys, Smalls from the Street University Gold Coast here. Hope you're all doing well, staying healthy, staying safe through all of this until we can open back up and all get back into doing what we love. I'm going to film a quick little video tutorial on graffiti tags. I'm going to teach you a few simple techniques on how to kind of create your own tag, how to make them look a little bit cooler, a little bit more funky fresh, a little bit more of a kind of graph style rather than just some cool writing kind of thing. I've got my iPad mirrored to the screen here, so you'll be able to see what I'm doing as I'm doing it, which would be cool. So yeah, let's get into it. So in graffiti, your tag is kind of like your signature. It's sort of your autograph. It's sort of the very first element of graffiti that you'll often learn. It kind of then evolves itself into the sort of bubble letters and wild style pieces and sort of 3D shapes out of letters and stuff. Before you tackle those, the tags is kind of where you start. So that's where I'm going to start this video today for this week, and then next week I'll probably do a video on some lessons on kind of bubble letters, and maybe from there we'll jump into some more kind of technical like wild style graffiti lettering and stuff, which would be cool. So what you'll need if you're following along from wherever you're watching, make sure you grab like a notepad or a piece of paper, whatever you want to draw on. You need one of those. If you want, grab a few sheets so you can kind of have a few different goes at experimenting with different shapes and things, play around a little bit. A lead pencil is handy. Some pens, some markers if you got them. Just grab whatever you want, really. Grab as much as you can. So, you can always kind of play around with different textures, different colors, different sizes and shapes and things can, make letters look a little bit funkier, which I'll get into as well. So what we'll start with is, essentially coming up with your own tag if you don't have one, which can basically be anything that you want it to be. Mine obviously is Smalls, and that's kind of the way that I introduce myself. If you have a tag already, sweet, use that. If you have a nickname or any kind of, name that you kind of get referred to a little bit, that maybe your kind of your street name or something you want to use, that'll work. Otherwise, you can just literally do any word that you want. If there's a word that you like the meaning of, you like, you might like just like the letters that are in that word and how you think you're going to be able to kind of stylize those. Very, least if you can't think of anything else, just use your initials. 2 or 3, they'll work fine for this. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna use Smalls, like I said, for me. But obviously you do this with whatever kind of word your tag you're using. So the way I'm going to start now, this is the very starting basics of tags. So this will kind of take a while to kind of evolve and develop into a real kind of graffiti looking tag. So we're kind of going to start at like square one with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write Smalls just in my like normal capital letters, my own handwriting, just if I was like filling out a form or something. Just like that. Nothing fancy yet. I'm just writing. So with whatever word or name or whatever you're doing, just write it out. Basic capitals. Nothing stylized, just like you normally would. So now that I've got that, I want to start trying to make this look a little bit funkier. Now the reason I'm doing that, graffiti tags, like I said before, is kind of like your signature. It's sort of like your autograph. And graffiti lettering is all kind of about like the exaggeration and the manipulation of letters to kind of express your own unique style. And you want yours to kind of stand out when it's next to someone else's. If we had 100 different names on this page that all said something else, but they were written in the same style, none of them would really stand out. You wouldn't really see the Smalls amongst all the other names. So what I want to try and do is make mine look unique and kind of special to me. I'm going to express my kind of style through it. So then when it's next to all those others, mine's going to stand out. So easiest way to kind of start stylizing your letters is if you find where the line that makes up the letter finishes, you then add something extra. You kind of break the rules of how that letter usually works and add something that's not usually there. So for my S, for example, where it ends here, I'm going to add a little tail kicking down. I'm going to do that up the top as well. Sweet. On my M, I'm going to pick a little tail where that ends there. And then on my A, I might make this line through the center come out a little bit longer, and I might put a tail kicking off this end as well. Maybe the back of the L's. I might even put a tail coming through the end there, all the way out. Then I've got another S, and I'll do something similar. Now that technique can work with any letter that you're trying to do. You can always kind of add something. If you've got a letter, say like let's say an O, that doesn't really have a place where it ends. Now, you don't have to do this to every letter, but you know, for an O, you could put something inside. You could put a little exclamation mark or something, or like maybe like a little asterisk. You could make it like a peace sign, for example. Just kind of play around. So go through your word. You can pause this video if you want, spend a bit of time on it before I kind of skip to the next step, and just add in some tails and stuff wherever you want to. You don't have to do it on every letter, and you don't have to do it at the end of every line. Just here and there, just to start to give it a little bit of style, a little bit of uniqueness. Sometimes less is more. If you overload it, it kind of stops really being a tag, like a signature, and starts kind of being more of like a drawing that's going to take too long. You kind of want this to have some nice kind of quick flow to it when you get the hang of how to do it. Sweet. So now that I've got my letters all looking kind of cool, I'm going to look at what I can add to the outside of the word to, you know, exaggerate and stylize it a little bit. So what I'm going to do to mine is I'm going to add some like apostrophes on the sides. I might add like a crown maybe on the top. And on the bottom, I might add like a kind of arrow looking thing. Sweet. So you can see just from there, I haven't actually rewritten it at all. I've started just with that basic capitals handwriting, and I've just turned that already into something that's looking a little bit more stylized, a little bit more unique, and it's starting to have that kind of graph funk to it. So take a little bit of time with yours, add things to the outside of the word. If you're sort of struggling with, you know, what to add, you can think about all the extra things that are on a keyboard. You got, you know, your dollar signs, exclamation marks, an asterisk. You can even do like, you can do like, I don't know, it's up to you. Love hearts, peace signs, these kind of things, arrows. You might like to do halos or something, or like crowns, really whatever. Just have a play around. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's nothing that you can't add to it. You don't have to. It's totally up to you. This is totally your own kind of expression, your own signature. Sweet. So that's how we do the first step. Now, what I'm going to do is keep that first S that I did, which I'm going to change the color so I can show what I'm talking about. I added those limbs to my S. Now, the way that I did it that time was I did my S, and then we came in and we added tails afterwards. So the next time, once I've already done that once, is now that I do the S, I want to include those tails right from the start, so they're actually just part of the line, like that. Now you can see already just with that one, it flows better. It doesn't look quite as much like they're an afterthought and they're kind of added on when I've finished the rest of the S. When it all kind of happens in the one line, it has that nice kind of flow to it, which adds style. In graffiti, flow kind of equals style a lot of the time. So the more you can make it kind of flow, the better it's going to look. Now with this, and with any letter, if you are doing any letter of the alphabet and you've added that kind of tail, if you add it right from the start when you're doing the letter, or just, instead of putting it on afterwards, you include it as part of that letter shape. Every time you do it, you'll find it becomes more stylized and it'll look better. So every time I do that S, I'm going to get a little bit more comfortable with that shape and including those things. And through practice, I'm going to be able to kind of evolve, the letter and stretch it out. And I might put some more kind of emphasis on the top half or the bottom loop. And I'll be able to sort of play around with more things than just those little limbs. I might be able to do it kind of different directions and find how that sort of flows a little bit differently as well. You can see how that's taken on a little bit more of a kind of graph style than that first one we did. So if you've got multiple pages, you can definitely take a page up for like each letter almost, just trying each letter on its own over and over again, adding more and more style to it. So I've kind of got my S that I was happy with, that last one. So now the M that I did before is just a capital M. And I think I added a tail like that on it. And again, is looking, a little bit forced, a little bit square and choppy. So this time I'll include that tail the first time that I do it. Has a little bit more flow to it already. Helps that it's the same color, but still the flow is good. Now, again, every time I do this letter, I'm going to get a little bit more comfortable with it. I'm going to get a little bit more brave stylizing other parts up about it. I might give it like a little bit of a lean. Might start to like make the tops kind of twist a little bit. Or I could make the bottom one come down lower than the other two. You'll just find different ways to exaggerate the letter and different things to stretch out, twist around and stylize. So there's my M. Cool. So I can go through and I can do this with literally every letter. And you can too, like with whatever word you're doing, if you want to practice every letter individually until you find the letter that you're happy with. So my A, I think I had a tail there. I made this come out longer. Has a bit more flow to it. And I might, because I know the A comes after the M, I might put a similar kind of lean on the A. So it kind of continues that flow and that shape to it. Sweet, I think you guys get the idea. Cool. So once you've got letters that you're happy with, it's kind of time to start putting them next to each other again. So if I'm remembering how I did my S that I was happy with, it's kind of like this. And then my M. Then I had my A. And now using that same technique, the way that I've kind of ended up with my L's, I sort of do this a little bit, but they changed. I do them differently every now and then. Another S. Sweet. So it's starting to look a little bit better. It's looking more stylized. And then we can remember that I came in with those things afterwards. A little outside. Now some of my drawings on this are a little bit dodgy because I've actually just got it propped up on a chair, so it kind of wobbles a bit, but that's all right. Sweet. It still doesn't look quite right. So what we want to do this time is try and give the whole thing more flow. that time we still kind of spaced out each letter a bit. And the same way that every time you do one letter and you play around with it, you get more comfortable with it. Every time that you do the whole word, you'll get more comfortable with it and you'll find other things that you want to play around with. And one thing that is a just super simple technique is to make each letter either really close to the letter before it or actually touching. So instead of spacing my M out here this time, I'm going to start it right up against the S. Same with the A. So I'm doing the same shapes to the letters. I haven't changed them. I'm basically just doing them closer together, kind of starting where the previous letter finishes. And now you can start to see that that has more flow to it, and that kind of looks like it's one sort of autograph or signature rather than a bunch of different letters that look cool on their own. That kind of looks like a unified sort of style. If that makes sense. So have a play around with that as well. Once you've figured out, you know, what letters you like, you've seen how they look next to each other, you can kind of try and find spaces where they'll kind of marry up and flow nicely. If you're good at like cursive, or if you like kind of doing running writing, that can often look pretty sweet with a kind of graph twist as well. And it's a really good way to sort of practice a bit of flow to it. And you can kind of decide sometimes like what you turn into a graph style and what you just keep like a cursive kind of style. So that has a little bit of like cursive and graph kind of twist. And you can kind of use that same cursive technique even if it's not cursive letters. Like with these letters above, I'll kind of be able to make them like flow into each other. You get the hang of it. Now, these steps will take a while. Don't expect to be able to just do them as quickly as I have. I've been doing this for a long time now. So don't get disheartened or frustrated if it's not turning out for you the first kind of try. Sometimes you got to suck at something before you can be good at it. It's kind of just how it works. Practice. Practice every letter. The more and more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Sometimes you have to spend some time just working out one letter before you can tackle it as a whole tag. Sweet. Other things that you can kind of play around with, like I was saying before, different widths of pens. So different markers and things. The fatter the pen is, often like the cooler the tag's going to look. It's going to look pretty fat. Chisel tips look cool as well. So a lot of like highlighters or Sharpies kind of have that square nib to them. They can add themselves just a cool extra element to a graph tag. Because they kind of give it those like angles and things. Those angles and twists. And it kind of has that little bit more of a hip hop kind of vibe. Yeah, sweet. So you can play around with different textures. You can, play around with the same letter over and over again with a different shaped marker. So with a round tip, my S looks like this. Whereas with a chisel tip, doing the same thing, it looks like that. Looks a bit cooler. So try different textures and things. Have a bit of an experiment. Then the same thing where you start the next letter touching the previous letter. Make them all kind of butt up into a continuous piece. There's no rules to this at all. You can play around as much as you want. Add whatever you want to the outside of it. You can also make some letters bigger, some letters smaller. They don't all have to be the same size. That's what you'll eventually get to be able to kind of like twist around and stylize more. Once you've done each letter, you found like a way of doing the letter that you're happy with, you can start to make one letter bigger than the next letter up to that a little bit smaller, and kind of have your tag sort of, flow up and down. Whoa, too fat. Too skinny. There we go. Drips look cool too. A lot of different markers and things, when you're kind of using them upright, give them a squeeze, they'll actually pump out a lot of paint and they'll cause it to drip. But if you're drawing it, you can kind of draw in the drips yourself, make it look like it's paint running down a wall. Sweet. Now, one thing that's pretty popular in graph as well is kind of claiming your hood or your crew, your postcode. So if you're feeling like you want to just keep tagging and you need to add something to your name, it's looking a little lonely by itself, you might be able to add like your postcode or your street number or something. Or sometimes you can add that, like I'm Smalls 1, for example, like the only, which I'm not, but stuff like that. So just have a play around. Sweet. So again, make sure you pause this tutorial at any point, rewind, go back if you missed anything, take your time with it. Usually these lessons can take a couple hours when I'm sort of waiting for people to work on their tags. The video is not going to go for that long, so make sure that you're stopping it and you're spending time working on yours. You're not trying to keep up with me. So what I'm going to do a alphabet in case there's any letters that you're kind of struggling with, or even if you just want a little inspo. These are kind of how I do some of these letters. You can definitely spend a bit of time on like Google and stuff, just looking up graffiti tag alphabets. But just remember, it's your tag. It's your kind of personal style and expression. So you don't want to be just copying something that's out there, but you can definitely, use some stuff for references and inspiration. Now, obviously, this isn't by any means the only ways to do letters. There's really endless styles for what you want to do with them. There's just some of the ways that I do mine. No. Chuck in some little things that you can put on the outside of your tag as well. Definitely not the only things you can do, but just a few ideas. Sweet. So I might upload some alphabets and things to Discord, so you can find those if you're wanting some references. But like I said, you can do a little bit of a search and kind of find graffiti alphabets and stuff as well. Hope that's helped. Hope it's all made sense. I've done a good job if it does. Next week I'll be doing some lessons and things on bubble letters before we get into pieces and stuff. So keep an eye out for those Zoom meetings. In the meantime, practice your tags. Take it easy. Take care. Peace.